So a lot of people think that if God knows how I will freely choose and I'm not free to trick God, then I don't have libertarian freedom. But that's not the definition.
Can anything happen outside of God's foreknowledge?
What can happen and what will happen are two different things. And so I think that the can or the could, so I differentiate between could, would, and will. So what could and would happen are different than what will happen. And so, yes, I do think, and in fact, I do have a little argument here. See if I can find it. It'll be quick. If I can find it, it'll be quick. Let me see. Okay. So a lot of people think, hey, if you can't trick God, if you can't do other than what God knows, then you're not free. And I would just say, hey, that's not the definition of libertarian freedom. The definitions of libertarian freedom are either that something or someone else does not causally determine everything about you. If it's ever true that when you choose or act or do anything, if that's not causally determined by something or someone else, then you're free in the libertarian sense. And then some would say that if you've ever got the ability to or the opportunity to exercise an ability to choose between or among a range of alternative options that are each compatible with your nature at the moment of choice, then you've got libertarian freedom. That's a nice fancy way of saying the ability to choose otherwise. If either of those are ever true, then you've got libertarian freedom. There's sometimes when I argue and I can't prove the ability to do otherwise, but I can show that it's got to be true that you weren't causally determined by something or someone else, then congratulations, you've got libertarian freedom. But sometimes I think I can show that you've actually got the ability to do otherwise when it comes to thinking and rationality. John Searle, an atheist, is big on this, and Evan Fales, another atheist. They make great arguments for this. They've influenced me a lot. So they're atheists who are also libertarians when it comes to rationality and reason-based knowledge and things like that. They'll say if you don't have libertarian freedom to think, then you're not a free thinker. So much for that. For that, that's where I got FreeThinking Ministries from, is because I was interacting with the local atheist group called the Freethinkers all the time. Anyway, let me just say this: God, if this is true, I'll give you three propositions. If it's true that God knows that Sally would freely choose X instead of not X, even though she could have chosen X, if he were to create her in a non-causal deterministic circumstance, we'll just call that non-causal deterministic circumstance C, right? So God knows how Sally would freely choose, or that she would freely choose X. All right. Now God, then, knowing how she would freely choose, and again, I said knowing how she would freely choose, then God creates Sally in non-causal deterministic circumstance C. So what changes? Now God knows Sally will freely choose X instead of non-X, even though she could have chosen non-X, in non-causal deterministic circumstance C. So here's the takeaway. Just because the word would transforms to will, the word freely doesn't magically disappear. So a lot of people think that freedom, if God knows how I will freely choose and I'm not free to trick God, then I don't have libertarian freedom. But that's not the definition. So God can create a free creature whom he does not causally determine and know how that free creature will freely choose. And if they were to choose differently, that would have changed God's foreknowledge or middle knowledge. And so anyway, to answer the question, I would say, off the top of my head here, I might want to think about this a little more, but my first reaction is to say something can happen outside of God's foreknowledge, but if it did, then his foreknowledge would have been different. So maybe that's a cop-out. I don't know.